it's really about developing that sort of fundamental understanding of how the markets work. And it's not, I think people can think about systematic investing and they can say, they can think, oh, well, it's, right, computer rules and they sort of, drive you wherever you go. It's less about that and more about understanding and thinking that there are fundamental cause effect drivers that drive the outcomes that we're seeing, and that, those are not necessarily static. There are ways of thinking about it, and there are certain elements that are consistent over time, but that system is constantly evolving. And so you can't just say, well, for instance, I trade stocks using the yield curve, right? Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. In the last 15 months, or, it hasn't. Yield curve inversion hasn't been a very good indicator of stocks, and so you can't just take those things on the face value. You have to constantly rigorously assess. But the foundation is that there are fundamental drivers that are driving markets, economies, where they were and where they're going. And if you can understand those fundamental drivers in a way that is better than other participants in the market, then you have a better view of what's likely to transpire, and you can reflect that view in markets.
So I'm curious, do you say it's a fair assessment to conclude that there are no certainties or very few certainties? It's probabilistic, right? Is that how you think about it?
Part of the lessons from being a macro investor is the humility of getting a lot of things wrong. In baseball, if you hit over 300, you go to the Hall of Fame. In macro, if you can be 52-48 on, trades in any given month, that'll make you one of the best investors in the world. And so that gives you a sense as to just how hard it is. And so a lot of what you're doing in terms of, if you're trying to generate alpha from a macro perspective, is you're trying to get some edge, right? You're trying to get that marginal edge and then try and bet that edge over and over and over again, so you have large sample size, so you can create, more consistent returns. Because, anytime any macro commentator watch CNBC, someone says stocks are going to go up, stocks are going to go down, that's a 52-48 kind of bet. And so given that edge is so hard to develop, what you want to do is you want to create that edge, but then you also want to bet it. And that's part of what systemization is really valuable for, which is it both allows you to have sort of these fundamental cause effect sort of rules in terms of how the world is working, but it also is scalable and allows you to apply that understanding more broadly across markets and in a disciplined way, so you can get the most out of your edge.